Hey, how's it going? My name's Emily, and today we are going to be doing a 30-minute vinyasa practice for our legs and hips. So if you want to reconnect with your legs and hips, energize them, feel nice and strong, let's lie down on the mat. We're going to get started in Supta Baddha Konasana, or reclining butterfly. So we bend the knees in nice and close and gently rock the knees out to the side. Remembering you can support under your knee or your thigh with a block or a rolled up towel or blanket. Using this opportunity here to connect with the breath. Feeling supported by your mat, the floor underneath you. Allowing any tension you've collected over the day to melt away. As you nurture every inhale, every exhale. Letting each round of breath be a little longer and deeper than the last. Taking your thoughts away from the rest of your day. Bringing them to be right here, right now. Attention on the feeling, on the sound of your breath. Knowing that your breath is the perfect anchor into the present moment. Anytime you find your mind fluttering away, bring it back to the breath. You can keep the eyes closed if you like. Just gently starting to reach the hands down to the outsides of the legs, outsides of the knees, and closing them like a book. Extending the legs out long on the mat. Let's draw the left knee into the chest. Give it a little hug. And then releasing your grip on that knee, we're going to draw some circles with the point of the knee here. Noticing that the movement comes from just the hip. The belly stays nice and strong. And that keeps the body from rocking and rolling all over the place. We're trying to keep this movement just from the hip. You can have a play with extending that leg out, pointing the toe and drawing your circles with the toe. And picking an option that feels good for you. Keeping those circles going nice and slow. And then one last little hug in of that knee to the chest. Let it go. Let's do the other side. Right knee comes to the chest. Give it a little hug. You can always use a strap here as well if you like, if you can't quite comfortably reach around the leg. And then letting it go. Let's start to draw some circles with that knee. See how big your circles can be. Notice places where you feel a little sticky or stuck. See if you can work a little bit of movement into them. Always got the option of extending the leg out nice and long here. Staying strong through the body. One last little hug in toward the chest. And then let's let that knee go. Place it back down on the floor. Bending both legs up, taking the feet about hips distance apart, arms out by the sides. Let's just start to rock the knees from side to side like windshield wipers. Slowly rocking right, rocking left. And then here I like to turn my head in the opposite direction that my knees are pointing. So it kind of feels like a whole spine twist. Now I let my body be a little bit soft here, but I glue my shoulders to the floor. Gently waking up the body, finding some movement. Again, just noticing places where you feel a little stuck. See if you can bring a bit of movement there. Syncing this with your breath, and inhale one way and exhale the other. Your last one, let's bring the knees back up through center, bending them in, the feet in nice and close. Going through some bridges here. So my thigh bones are running parallel. The knees don't rock in or out or sideways. They run like train tracks. And then gently pressing the feet into the floor, I lift the hips up and tuck the tailbone under like I'm trying to point my tailbone at the back of my knees here. So the lower back stays nice and long. This is more of a hip extension exercise than it is a back bending exercise. If you have a look at my back, it's not really bending at all. Working with your breath, use an inhale to lift up, exhale to lower. Now, if you're feeling pretty good here, you can lift one knee toward the chest and do single leg raises. Remember, we're not necessarily looking to get super high off the ground. What we're looking for is activation in the back of the legs, in our glute muscles. We're waking up our hips, remember. Swapping sides if you did choose the single leg lifts. Remembering that it's actually quite tricky. If you're feeling a little unsteady, you can always keep both feet on the ground. Keeping that lower back nice and long, driving the feet down into the floor, or foot down into the floor. Bringing both feet down. Gently draw both knees into the chest, a little rock from side to side. And we can start rocking up and down the spine here like a little ball. And you might choose to rock yourself all the way up, or you can roll off to the side and make your way up into a tabletop. Making sure you're feeling nice and strong, 5 fingers on the floor, long through the spine, not too floppy. And then from there, pressing all your weight into your left shin, let's pick up the right knee and start to draw some circles, exactly as we were doing before, not all crazy floppy through the body. We're really nice and strong, meaning the movement comes just from our hip. This is exactly like we were doing on the floor, but now we've changed position, we've got gravity, makes it a little different. Take your circles in both directions as well. Changing sides, maybe readjusting. And let's take it over to the left. Again, moving nice and slowly, nice and mindfully. Feeling super strong, super in control. Remember, your circles don't have to be massive. We're just looking at waking up the muscles around our pelvis. Take your circles in both directions as well. Taking your last one, let's pop that knee back down on the ground. And let's extend out through the right leg here, toes to the floor. And we're going to lift that heel up so it feels like the heel is in line with the hip, is in line with the shoulder here. Really press out through that heel. From there, I'm going to take my weight into the left shin and see how I'm pivoting on that shin a little bit. The toes kind of start to point behind me as I open up through the hip. Peel the chest, the hip open. You might even reach that right hand up off the floor. It's like a half Ardha Chandrasana. We can do some little pulses with that floating foot if you're feeling a little strong today. And then bringing the foot back down to the floor, let's change sides. So extending the left leg out, lifting up the heel so it's in line with the hip. Taking lots of weight into the right hand, right shin. Remember, you can pivot on the shin, turn the toes behind you to open up the chest. Hand reaches up and we can take a couple pulses. So gently lifting and lowering the heel, just a couple centimeters. You'll feel it. Bringing everything back into your tabletop. Now let's tuck the toes under here so you feel like you're stretching out through the bottoms of the feet. In your tabletop, really opening up the fingers, and we're just going to rock back, push the hips back towards the heels, and then rock forward, rock the shoulders over the fingers. As we do that, we sit back to stretch through the feet, and we rock forward, drive the fingers down into the floor to wake up the wrists. Rocking it back, thinking about feet and ankles. Rocking it forward, thinking about strong forearm flexors and extensors. Let's pick up the knees, come back into our first downward facing dog. Taking a little wiggle, bend through the knees, pedal out the feet. Any movements that help you feel a little bit more at home in this downward dog shape. Remember, you can always take a tabletop if you're not feeling your down dog. Feeling long through the spine. Ears coming between the biceps. And then let's start to walk the hands back towards the feet. Bend the knees as much as you need here. And starting to stand yourself up, nice and slow. coming to a Tadasana, we'll have our feet hips distance apart. We're going to work through some Utkatasana, bending the knees like you're sitting down in a chair, and then standing it up. Let's sit down in our Utkatasana, reach the hands up, and then bring it up. Let's take that one more time, sit it back, keeping the knees even, not rocking in or out, standing it up. And then we can have a play with picking up the right heel as we sit down. And then as you stand up, swapping over, pick up the left heel, pop the right foot down. Lifting it up. And you can keep swapping it over, or you can have a play with lifting both heels up off the floor, up on the tippy toes, come into your Utkatasana, stand it up. And then bringing the hands back down to the floor in a forward fold. Let's walk it back out again, back to our downward facing dog. Spending a moment here, feeling long through the backs of the legs. Remembering you can have the heels up off the floor, you can bend the knees if you need. And then moving from our downward facing dog, let's start to walk the feet up towards the hands this time, coming to the top of our mat. Coming into our forward fold, bringing hands to shins, coming to a halfway lift. Really draw the heart forward. Lift the lower belly here. Feel really open through the chest. Lowering back to your forward fold. Let's take a big step back with our left foot. Lower the knee down to the floor and lift the hands up. See, I've got 90-degree angles at the knees, at the hips. Gently tucking the hips under here. And then I'm going to reach my left hand across the body to the outside of the right knee. And I'm going to push my hand into my knee, push my knee into my hand, and twist. Added bonus to pick up the back heel. Bend the knee, but don't grab onto that foot. Use the hamstring to keep it floating. Highly recommend supporting under the knee here if you've got sensitive knees, or you can always skip that. Bring the hands up, and then we'll bring the hands down either side of the feet so we can switch over. Come to your forward fold, halfway lift, hands to floor, and then let's step the right foot back, lower the knee, come to your low lunge, bit of a wobble there. Keeping the hips tucked, going for a nice quad stretch. We're going to reach across the body. Free hand reaches towards the back foot, and we bend it up. We're not going to grab onto the back foot, keep it floating in space. Use your hamstrings. Lowering it all down. Hands come to the floor. This time we're going to tuck the back toes, come up high off the knee, and step back into a plank, a high push-up position. You can lower the knees here if you like, otherwise staying in your high plank if you're feeling good. And then coming into Vashisthasana, a side plank. So an option here is to lower that left knee and come into a half plank, or stack the feet coming into a full side plank, reaching the right hand up, picking up that top leg, and then we're going to take that top leg, step it to the front of the mat into our high lunge. Once you're feeling stable there, reach the hands up overhead. Both sets of toes pointing forward here. And then stepping forward into your aeroplane pose, thinking about lots of weight into your front leg, making a T shape, pressing out through that floating heel. Stepping it slowly back to your high lunge. I'm going to shoot the hands either side of me, leaning forward into arrowhead pose. Added bonus here to put lots of weight in the toes of that front foot, lift the heel. Nice long line of energy from the crown of the head to the back heel. One last inhale here, and as you exhale, lower the hands to the floor, step back to your high plank. Let's go for the other side. Remember, you can have knees on the floor to come to a half plank, opening out to the left side this time, right hand, right leg to the floor, or your full plank. Let's pick up that top leg, float it up, and then step it forward. So it's a little bit of pivoting on that back foot. Once you feel good in your high lunge, reach the arms up toward the ceiling. Stepping it slowly forward to your aeroplane. This is your Virabhadrasana 3. The floating toes, floating knee point down towards the floor. Reaching the hands up overhead. Stepping back to your high lunge, shoot the hands down by the sides, palms facing forward, and we tip forward into our arrowhead, Picking our option to lift the heel if that feels good. One last inhale. And as you exhale, hands come to the floor. This time, stepping back to your downward facing dog. A moment here. You can stay in your down dog, or if you're feeling it, which I definitely am, I'm going to make my way into a child's pose, sitting back towards the heels, stacking fists and resting the forehead on the fists. When you're ready, let's meet in our downward facing dog. Placing lots of weight into your right hand. I'm going to pick up my left hand, reach it through across the body. I can either place that hand on the right hand side of my mat, on the right thigh, right knee, or around the right ankle. Thinking about turning your gaze underneath that armpit like you're trying to open the chest up across the mat. If you're not feeling this downward dog, you can take a thread the needle on the floor here on hands and knees. Then stepping that hand back, let's take the other side. Right hand reaches across maybe to the side of the mat, to the thigh, the knee, or the ankle. Really using the leverage that you've got to pull your arm through, pull the chest through, take the gaze underneath the armpit. Stepping it out back into your regular downward facing dog. I'm going to step my leg that's the furthest away from the screen so I can come into a wide-legged forward fold. Bending the knees in this wide-legged forward fold, I'm going to tuck the tailbone, roll my way up nice and slowly. Head comes up very, very last. Thinking about turning the toes out slightly. Thinking about the knees heading in the same direction as the toes. I'm going to reach the hands out directly in front of me. I'm just going to bend a little bit into my right leg, into my left leg. But just watching where that knee's going. We want it to head in the same direction as our toes here. So what I do is I bend that knee and then draw a little semicircle. So like I'm bending it in the direction of my big toe all the way over to my pinky toe, and then I straighten that leg out, head for the other side. You can stick with this option, or if you're feeling pretty good, pretty stable here, you can start to deepen that bend, keeping the arms outstretched in front of you. Like you have pressure not only in the knuckle of the big toe, but the outer edge of the foot as well. You can have a play here with coming into a full knee bend. So we come into our Skandasana, and you take the hand closest to the bent leg, stretch it out to the floor, take your other hand up to the ceiling, feel open through the chest, and then reach the arms out. The hardest part is coming back up again, nice and slow and controlled. Having a play with the other side, opening out the arm here, opening out your wings, and then bringing it back. Beautiful work. Bringing the hands to the hips, I'm going to turn the left toes towards the side of the mat, right toes towards the short end of the mat. Keeping the hips tucked under, extending the arms out long, palms facing down, and then bending into that right knee. Thinking about the thighs externally rotating outwards. And then we can have a play here with turning the palms to face up, making fists, bending the elbows in towards each other as you straighten out the leg, and then we send it back. Keeping that going, feeling super strong here. Inhale as you come up, exhale as you bend it out again. And added bonus to come up onto the toes of that right foot. Working with your breath, you might want to move a little slower than me. At this point, I am really feeling my legs. Your last one, let's turn both toes towards the long edge of the mat, running parallel with the feet, and then we take a little forward fold here. So the hands can either come to the thighs, they can come to the floor, and as you start feeling a little bit more comfortable here, walk the hands in between the legs, like you're drawing the crown of the head to the floor here. Coming up halfway, hands to the hips, bring yourself up to standing, taking the opposite side. So I'm turning my left toes out, coming into my warrior two, Vira two on the left side. Arms extend out, feeling super strong, looking out over that front middle finger. And when you're ready, let's turn the palms up, make a fist, draw the elbows in towards each other behind the back. Exhale, send it out to warrior two. Inhale, bring it in. Added bonus here to lift the heel of that front left foot. Keeping it going. Syncing breath and movement. Straightening out that leg, turning the toes to the long edge of your mat. Heel toeing the feet in, so the heels are about underneath the hips, toes are pointing outwards. Let's bring the hands into cactus arms. You can take Jana Mudra here. I know that's popular. Otherwise, extending the fingers out nice and long. Then starting to bend into the knees. Again, thinking about the knees heading in the same direction as your toes. Watching you're not falling forward with the body. You're staying nice and upright. And using an out breath as you bend the knees just as low as you can while you're still feeling control. And then inhale as you lift up, come up high onto the toes. You have an option of keeping the heels lifted as you come into a longer sit, goddess pose. Let's inhale as we reach it up, reach the hands up, coming nice and high up on the toes and lower the heels. Awesome work here. Keeping the feet as they are, we're going to work malasana or a deep squat. If you're not feeling this, I will give a modification, so hold tight. Nice and slowly, starting to sit the heels down between the ankles here. Making sure you feel like you've got an arch in your foot, weight still in the outside edges of the feet. And an option if you're not feeling that, if that's not good on your hips, knees or legs, we sit on our butt, take the knees about hips distance apart, feet about hips distance apart, and start to lean between them. You can hug your knees into the armpits or grab onto the feet. Otherwise, if you're feeling okay in your malasana, we bring the elbows on the inner edges of the knees. Remember, you can come up onto the toes here. If you're not quite there, you can always rest your heels up on blocks or a little bit of height. Lifting the chest, feeling open through the upper back. And then you can have a play here, reach the arms forward and rock back. See if you can gently rock onto your bottom. If that doesn't suit you, make your way onto your butt, long edge of the mat. Let's extend the legs out nice and wide. We're going to start to rock forward. Remember, you can have a soft bend in your knees. Your feet don't have to be as wide as mine. Keeping the toes and knees pointing up towards the ceiling. So hands can be on the thighs, they can be on the floor in front of you, or you can go for pistol grip around the big toes. Thinking about the chest still being open, still being able to look slightly forward, back of the neck is nice and long. Just watching we're not hunching too much in the upper back here. Walking your hands back towards you, making your way up. I'm going to bend my left knee in, take the sole of the foot to the inner thigh, and then taking the back of my right hand to the inside of the leg, I'm going to run it down my leg towards the foot as I reach up and over with the top arm. Now this is a little bit of a rotation here, so the bottom ribs kind of reach forward and the top ribs reach back here. So we're looking for maybe a really nice feeling of a side stretch here, so maybe in the side waist or in the ribs. If you're not feeling that, that's okay, but looking for a feeling of expansiveness there. Waving your hand up, let's take the other side, so right leg bends in, left hand comes to the inside of the leg, and we slide it down as we wave it over. Kind of noticing that we keep the top armpit kind of open to the sky here. I'm thinking about both sit bones, both sides of the pelvis pressing down into the floor. It can be tempting to kind of rock up to one side, but keep that side body nice and long. Waving it up. Let's come back to lie on the ground again. We're going to go through some rolling bridges, similar to what we did before, but this time we're going to have the legs extended out a little bit further than before. And I'm going to lift the toes up off the floor, so I'm just balancing on the heels. We've still got those train track thighs. And then once again, lifting the hips up. We can bring the arms into this drawing rainbows, semicircles with the fingertips. As you lift the hips up, wave the hands up overhead. And as you lower the hips down, bring the hands back down by the sides. I like to use an inhale to lift and a slow exhale to lower down with control. Let's take our last one. Beautiful work. And hips come down to the floor. Let's extend the legs out long. Drawing the right knee in towards the body, giving it a little hug. A little roll through the ankle there, movement through the ankle. Reaching the arms out nice and long. Let's take that right knee over the body, over to the left hand side, coming into a gentle twist. Some beautiful deep breaths here. Finding extra space. Both shoulders on the floor. And guiding that knee back up through center. Let's take the other side. Left knee draws to the chest. Give it a hug. Some circles through that ankle, movement through the ankle. And then when you're ready, guiding it across the body over to the right side. Extend the arms out long. Palms facing up to the ceiling is quite nice. You see, I've got my gaze over toward the opposite side. Where you take your gaze is optional. Some beautiful deep breaths here. Coming to the end of our practice, starting to slow things down. You're starting to bring yourself back through center. Stepping both feet up to the floor, close to the hips. Let's pick up the right knee and cross that right ankle over the left knee. Reaching up and through that gap, coming into a nice figure 4 stretch. So wrapping your hands around that left shin. And gently pulling both legs in toward you. This is an awesome alternative for pigeon pose, as there's no real weight bearing. We're not pushing our entire weight down on it. And then an option, a nice alternative to Gomukhasana here. We slide the knees one on top of each other, and then we reach down and grab the outside edges of the feet, gently pulling the knees in towards the chest, pulling the feet in toward you. Again, we're looking for a nice kind of opening feeling through the hips. And same thing, other side. Left ankle over right knee. Reach up, grab that right knee. And then relax back. If your head doesn't make it to the floor, pop something under it so you can relax down. And this is a piriformis stretch, a beautiful alternative to pigeon. And then stacking that top knee on top of the bottom knee, grab onto the outside edges of the feet. A beautiful supine alternative to Gomukhasana or cow face pose. These can both be really intense hip openers, and if you've got ankle, knee, hip issues, it can be tricky to sit in them. Let's untangle our legs. Drawing both knees in towards the armpits here, so knees are nice and wide. Coming into your version of a happy baby, I'm going to reach up and grab the outside edges of my feet, but you might grab onto the ankles, you might grab behind the knees. Maybe taking a gentle rock from side to side. That beautiful massage on the lower back. Drawing knees towards armpits. Gently releasing whatever you're holding on to. Let's extend the legs, not the arms, the legs directly up toward the ceiling here. You'll see I've picked up my lower back and I've popped my hands underneath there. That's just for a little extra height, totally optional. You might use your bolster or a blanket or a block. And we're just gently extending the heels up towards the ceiling. You might have a soft bend in your knees, or a big bend in your knees if you feel a bit tight through the backs of the legs here. What we're aiming for is just to have our ankles, our knees, our hips slightly above the heart. It's a gentle inversion to finish off our practice together. A few moments in stillness here, smoothing out the breath, coming back to it if you've forgotten about it. Your last breath here. Let's bring the legs down as you're ready. Coming back to where we started, our Supta Baddha Konasana, reclining butterfly. I like to bring my hands onto my belly here. You might like to take yours up overhead, down by the sides. A few moments in silence, in softness, in stillness. And as you're ready, let's bring the knees together and extend the legs out nice and long, making our way into Shavasana, making yourself comfortable. And as always, if you would like to spend some time in your Shavasana, which I highly recommend, feel free to let this video play out, spend 10-15 minutes, a nice song or guided meditation in your Shavasana. Allowing your breath to flow freely, your body to feel heavy. Gifting yourself some time to rest. And as you're ready, we wake up the body, take a stretch, gently roll off to one side, spending a moment in the fetal position. And as you're ready, gently pressing your way up to a comfortable seat. Keeping the eyes closed, sitting up tall as we bring the hands in front of the heart. Thank you so much for sharing your practice with me today, for joining in. I hope you have a beautiful day. Take good care of yourself.